Look here! Look here! Look! Listen!
You do not load the G11 like this or this. The magazine goes in here, and then you. Where the fuck's the charging handle? Greetings, comrades. This is Sergei Kilemov, and welcome to part 2 of the Update 90 special in H2VR. And the first video we covered the pistols and assault rifles, and today we are covering the shotguns. And there are 6 new shotguns that the update has added. There's also another assault rifle there that I forgot to show off, but we'll get to that last. But first, let's get to the boomsticks. And we start with the Benelli M2. Now, we're all familiar with the Benelli M1014, which is the semi-auto shotgun of choice for, police forces around the world and stuff. This is the M2, which is basically the same thing, basically an earlier model, I should say. And as you would expect from the M2 tactical name, it has quite a few Picatinny rails. One on the top for sights, and we have 2 on the side for like laser sights or flashlights, and the bottom for a foregrip if you so desire. We're going to put this little sight on this one, and there's a pretty decent ammo capacity for a shotgun. There's 6 there. So, you prime it. So there's 7 in the tube and 1 in the chamber, so that gives you a total of 8 rounds. And of course, gotta have the safety on. As I showed off in the previous H2VR video, it introduced some new paper targets in the indoor range, and these paper targets are actually destructible, which basically if you shoot them enough, you can actually tear the targets into many small pieces. So, let me demonstrate. As you can see, you can just barely see those little holes. Okay, you see those on the left there. But of course, we're going to tear them down a little more. So we're going to get a few more shots down there. Could have want to put another one in there. And like I said, it's semi-automatic, so if it's trigger pull, it fires the gun. No pump action needed. Just load in the shells, pull the charging handle, and pull the trigger, and it fires. So that's the M2. Now here's the M23 gun. It's essentially the same gun, same semi-auto nature, but you see we have a longer barrel and a longer magazine tube. So instead of 7 rounds, we can hold 10 rounds in the tube. And again, 1 in the chamber. So that gives you a total capacity of 11 shells. And the nickname 3 gun, it basically comes for its use during like skeet shoots, target shooting competitions, stuff like that. Anyone who's seen Top Shot will know what I'm talking about. As I mentioned, it's basically the same gun as the M2 Tactical over there, but we have a larger ammo capacity and a longer barrel, so naturally it makes for more shots down range. So you can tell this is ideal for like duck hunting and well, general all-purpose hobby shooting. We can put it that way. Very nice gun, but also introduce some smaller guns. Now these names are a little harder to remember despite being shorter names, but these are basically 2 of the new shotguns. This is a T14 Custom. It's a small pump action shotgun. kind of a small ammo capacity. 4 in the tube, plus 1 in the chamber. Gives you a total of 5 rounds. And we roll that one up. I'll show this one as well. This is the VT-14 or VT-13 shorty, which is not quite the same as that gun. This is actually semi-auto, just like the Benelli's here. But the same ammo capacity. Plus 1, actually. So that gives you 6 rounds, as opposed to just 5. And again, this one's pump action, this one's semi-auto. So, let's just get the semi-auto out of the way. See how much we're chipping that target away? And you know we gotta do more. So yeah, short build shotguns, definitely, nice to have. But I think what you really want to see are these guns over here. But first, let's load up our bandolier real quick. Now this is one I was not expecting to show up in HDVR, but I'm glad it is. Anyone who's played any video games like Call of Duty lately, or other fancy first-person shooters, will immediately recognize this shotgun. This is the KSG. What's interesting about this weapon is not only the bullpup design with all the actions behind the trigger, but it's the ammo capacity. We see the barrel up here. Right below it are the 2 ammo tubes. They have 7 shells in each tube. And the way you load it is there's a little loading gate in the bottom. You can barely see it through the light there. Basically, there's a little switch that switches between the 2 tubes. That only determines which tube's getting loaded, but which tube the weapon will load from when you pump the shotgun. Which, of course, with a large ammo capacity like this, comes a rather long reload time, so you might want to stack your shells if you plan on using this. Now, obviously, you would not want to reload this during a combat situation, but sometimes, gotta find some cover, load up this KSG. 14 rounds, might take a while to load, but it's worth it in the end. One thing I forgot to mention, you can see the Picatinny rail on the top, one on the bottom. So, if you so desire, you put a foregrip, you put a sight, and another thing, this can actually equip a silencer, which I believe this is a new addition in Update 90. I'm not too sure. I haven't looked too much on the attachments, but this is the salvo suppressor. This is a suppressor made specifically for shotguns. So you can see right there, very nice looking profile here. And basically just like any other suppressor, it decreases the sound of the weapon. And just like any other suppressor in this game, you can't just slap it on and it's good to go. You actually have to twist it in yourself. About 2 or 3 turns will get it nice and tight. But of course, we're not really going to use that for this gun. I just wanted to show it off. So, that switch there, again, it determines which tube that the gun loads from. Once it runs out, you have to flip the switch to the next tube so you can load from that. And of course, don't forget to pump. This is a pump action shotgun after all. So that tube's done. We switch to the next tube, pump it. And there you go. You load in some more shells. Remembering to flip the switch to load to the next tube. And there you go. It's good to go again. But now, let's get to the really fun one. Another one I was not expecting to appear in this game. but I'm glad it is. This is the 612. The Cry Precision 612. It's a very nice looking 12 gauge shotgun. What's unique about it is not only its size, as you can see, aside from the KSG, it is very small. You could probably conceal this if you so desire. But what's interesting about it is a magazine. You know, instead of a box magazine or, traditional magazine tubes, we got a cylinder magazine. Holds 6 shells. And what's interesting about this is that there's no charging handle or anything like that. Instead, we have the safety. Once that's up, it's good to go. No priming or anything. You just flip that switch and then it's good to go. No priming or anything. Just take out the magazine, put another one in. It's good to go again. Now, if you're wondering why this shotgun's so small, it's actually designed to also be an underbarrel shotgun. So, you can imagine, let's say this is an assault rifle. You can imagine putting that under your gun, give it a nice little profile and quite a good amount of firepower. But because of the way guns are designed and programmed in this game, such a nice little feature is not possible. So we are stuck with the standalone version, which is good enough for me. And you'll notice a nice little wooden furniture. And one thing I wasn't expecting, it has an extendable stock, which makes you wonder how would that work with the cylinder being right here. But, it works. So, that's it for the shotguns. And now let's get to that one assault rifle I forgot to show off. Now, technically this is a weapon that already exists. It's this weapon here. This is the G11, made by Heckler & Koch. It was made around the 1980s. It's actually a prototype weapon. What's interesting about this weapon, we can tell it's a really looks like a toy, but this is a very interesting rifle because it uses a special caseless cartridge. Let's see, the 4.7 by 33 millimeter. And you'll notice an interesting design. You'll notice there's no ejection port, no traditional charging handle, and you're probably thinking, where do you put the magazine? Well, this weird looking magazine, which looks like a giant Kit Kat bar, it actually goes into the top there. You see that slot there? It goes parallel to the barrel on the bottom. That slides in there. And again, there's no charging handle. Instead, there's this little knob. You twist that a few times, and it's good to go. And you'll notice this version has an integrated scope. But this one here is a new gun that was added along with all these other guns. As you can see, it's a TAC mod version. As you can already tell, it has rails. One on the top for scopes, on the side for like a foregrip or flashlight or anything like that. With this, it has a nice built-in scope. But what's interesting about this weapon is the 3-round burst. We'll show that off soon. Here's a single fire. Not too bad, not too bad. Let me show you the full auto real quick. Decent fire rate, but what's really interesting is a burst fire. Now what's interesting is a 3-round burst, but watch how fast it fires. It almost sounds like one shot, but it's actually 3 shots going out at the same time. So, kind of like the AN-94 that came after with the 2-round burst, where both rounds fire so fast it almost sounds like one shot. Here, 3-round burst sounds like one shot, and you see all 3 bullets hit their mark. It's almost like, look at this, 1 bullet hit, but it's actually 3 bullets. Very interesting weapon. Of course, it never really entered mass production. Instead, we got the G3. We're pretty familiar with that gun by now. But that's the normal G11. what has been added is, of course, the TACMA version. Again, we have a little sight on, we have a little rail on the top, so you can put a sight if you want. Of course, we got 2 rails here on the side and 1 on the bottom. So you can put a laser sight and the foregrip. Now, oddly, for some reason, foregrips do not want to attach this gun that easily. You have to really force it in. But it'll get in there. You just gotta fiddle with the handle a bit so that way it'll actually get through. Now, as I mentioned, magazine loads parallel to the barrel. You twist this knob a few times to prime it. And we got the 3-round burst, which is basically almost just 1 bullet going out, but it's actually 3. So that's it for the new guns, but I think we should finish off with tearing down that target. So let's try... You know what? Let's go and get out the good old AK-12. You know I love the prototype version. Makes it look more futuristic, but as I mentioned, this is the prototype version. The production version has a little more in common with the standard AK platform, but I guess as their philosophy goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But this target, however, we're definitely going to try to break it, one way or another. So let's finish off in style. Of course, with such drum magazines, tactical reload wouldn't be as easy. I think I have a better idea. Let's bring it a little closer. So that way you can easily see the amount of damage we've done here. It definitely takes a bit of firepower to bring this thing down. So we're going to do it a little closer. Not quite sure how it's holding together after all this. But trust me, after a few more shots it won't be much longer. I love these new paper targets. Something tells me I'm going to be spending a little more time in the indoor range now than the friendly 45 range. So that's it for the Update 90 special in HD VR. Hope you enjoyed these videos, and I hope you look forward to the next ones. Until then, do svidaniya.